Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, that includes you listening while you should be working. Maybe you're driving your car down the freeway and you hear my voice and you think, "Oh, it is so calming to hear once again Steve's voice while I'm out and about." Ladies and gentlemen, that is right. It is me, Steve, Range Minded Podcast. Sorry I didn't get an episode out last week. A lot of things going on. It just is what it is. You're just going to have to deal with it. I apologize. This episode, I'm not going to be talking about anything in specifics, but I'm going to be doing some ranting. And we're going to have some conversations. Maybe this is something that you need to hear. Maybe it's something you don't want to hear. Maybe it's something you want to ignore. Totally get it. We are going to be talking about that pesky pistol brace. So the time is coming close, folks. If you are a proud owner of a pistol brace, apparently my kids are extremely noisy upstairs as they stomp on the floor. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Holy cow, that is loud. Anyway, the time cometh. D-Day soon cometh. The day of reckoning, whatever you want to call it. When the ATF came out with their final rule on the pistol brace, it only took them 12 years to come up with a final rule, but they did anyways, right? The end of this month, the 29th of May or whatever it is, it is the last day we can legally possess said items, which are merely accoutrement to our firearms. It is nothing more than a cosmetic attachment. As Thomas Massey says, a piece of plastic mounted to the back of a firearm. Does it really change the characteristics of your AR pistol? I don't know. Maybe not. Does it make a difference on how the gun functions, on how the gun fires, on how the gun feels? Maybe. Or maybe not. So we've already talked about this in detail, right? How frustrating it is when an agency creates these rules that are bound by federal penalties. They can just make up rules willy-nilly, right? That is very frustrating. We all understand that. We saw it with the bump stocks, and we're seeing it with the pistol braces, right? Does the pistol brace actually change the functionality of the AR pistol? Now, I imagine most of you listening to me know the answer to that question. It does not fundamentally change the functionality of an AR pistol. So why such a big deal about it? Why do you think that is? Well, I know we've talked about in previous episodes. The pistol brace was originally submitted to the ATF in 2000. What was it? 2002? No, 2012. And the ATF, they have a firearms branch that goes through and looks at things and approves or disapproves certain attachments or modifications to firearms on the market to approve them for safety, right? Which is a good thing. No manufacturer wants to produce something that can cause harm to its user, whether maliciously or not. But that's not being, oh, what about the guns are used to kill people? That's bad. Shut up. You know what I'm talking about. So the ATF, yeah, that's fine. Sure. They told dude, yeah, that's cool. Go for it. That was then marketed by SIG for years. And then companies like Maxim and SB and other companies said, hey, we want to jump on that bandwagon. Here is our intended design. They sent it to the ATF. The ATF said, yep, cool beans. It is just fine. And since then, since 2012, we have seen millions and millions and millions of pistol braces designed, produced, and sold to the public. If you've been paying attention to any of the the Senate hearings with Diddlebug, what's his name? Diddlebach, you know who I'm talking about. The Democrats, or at least the far left, will say, look, they are used all the time in crime. All the time. It makes the gun more dangerous. Only showing that their ignorance is it has no depth. It just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. There is no bottom to either the gall or their ignorance. One of the two, maybe both. And here we are. We're right at the end of the 120 days. Like I said, starting June 1st, you may be a felon. Now, I'm going to preface this right here. If you're a fool if you take legal advice from me. Nothing I say, nothing that's ever been aired on the Range Minded podcast should be or can be construed as legal advice. We are not legal professionals. We are not your attorneys. Simply opinion. Okay. That being said, there have been some weird things happen in the last few days involving the court system. Okay, so we saw Firearms Policy Coalition. By the way, Range Minded just made a donation to the Firearms Policy Coalition just before I started recording this because I felt like they are doing fantastic work, and we made a donation to them. Or at least in their name. Let's put it that way. My wife's going to be upset when she sees the bill. Oh, don't tell her, okay? Just don't tell her. I went from buying guns to donating to crazy right-wing gun organizations. So there was an injunction made recently when in the Firearms Policy Coalition case, we'll just say FPC case, and Maxim, and the judge said, okay, hold on. If you are a Maxim customer or if you are a member of the Firearms Policy Coalition, they took a minute to clarify that. It was a few days. But I think yesterday, today's Saturday, the 27th of May, as of, I believe it was yesterday, the judge said, okay, let me make this clear. This is not a national injunction, but if these are for the plaintiffs and, or defendants, plaintiffs, the immediate family of Maxim, Firearms Policy Coalition or whatever, and its members, or in the case of Maxim, their customers. So, in my finite understanding, that says to me that if maybe one of your pistol braces is a Maxim defense, maybe you don't have to worry about things quite yet. If you're a Firearms Policy Coalition member, you're covered as of right now. So that could change at any minute. From what I'm hearing, I've been doing a little bit of research on this topic the last couple of days. I actually was planning on making a recording. I don't know. Hopefully it's my headphones. That sounds absolutely terrible. Hopefully it's not the way this is going to sound to you guys. From what it sounds like, there may be more injunctions coming down the pipeline. And there may be, the ATF may be getting a major slap in the wrist here pretty soon too. I don't know for the fact. I've just heard things rumbling. Okay, that's as far as I know on that case. But again, if you're a Firearms Policy Coalition member or a Maxim customer, from what it sounds like from the judge's comments, the injunction includes you. Now, because there was a lot of questions about FPC members, does it only count people that are members from up to that decision point? The judge clarified, I guess, yesterday. No, that includes all FPC members. That being said, this is not an endorsement for FPC. I don't get anything from them. Maybe it's time to kick a little money their way. Okay, maybe. It's expensive. These lawsuits are a fortune. It does not come as a public service, so maybe it's worth kicking a little money their way. Now, GOA, Gun Owners of America, they're probably going to be getting a donation in the name of Range Minded here pretty quick too. They're also in the middle of a lawsuit for this, and they are fighting for your rights. One company, I shouldn't say company, one Fire Pro 2A group that has been radio silent is easy to guess. I'm sure you already did, but I have seen nothing from the NRA. Nothing. Does that mean that they're not doing anything about it? In fact, while we're talking about this, let me just jump on their website, nra.org. You can look it up on your own time. If you're driving, just try and memorize that. Okay, so right up top, the very first story on their website. Whoops. Well, that was embarrassing. Let's try that again. For some reason, it kicked me out. NRA members savage Joe Biden's promise to defeat the NRA. Okay, nothing about pistol brace rule on their first story, second story, third story. Oh, here it is. Finally, let's click on this one. I probably should have done this before. Let's see. There's a cute little video of Tucker Carlson on the top of the page. Yeah, all this is a story. Oh, and this is a great story. I shared this on Instagram, maybe not everywhere. 25 states of attorneys general, they sent a letter saying, no, you're done. You're done. Okay, look at this. The NRA is joined in the lawsuit by SB Tactical, B&T USA, Wounded Warrior Richard Sierra, and the coalition of 25 states. So, good job. I was pooping on you, NRA, but appears that maybe you're actually doing something about it. Unlike bump stocks, which apparently you threw us under the bus. It's a long, drawn-out story. I'm not going to read much more of it. Whew. So, pretty interesting, huh? Good job, NRA. At least you're doing something. Pretty frustrating nonetheless. I still struggle with you. NRA. But we do know that, like I say, FPC and GOA are both working hard on our behalf. And if the NRA is doing it, good on them. I cannot, in good conscience, give them any more money until the board has been repopulated, redone, redesigned. It's a mess. I just can't. I can't do it. So where do we go from here? Now, if you're paying attention to this, you know that. Oh, excuse me, a little extra Dr. Pepper there. So we know that you have to reconfigure, not have to, you have choices. You can reconfigure your firearm. You can take the brace off and destroy it. My guess is you probably need to put a new buffer tube on it because it should not be able to accept the buffer tube. There was a little bit of confusion or misspeaking on behalf of Mr. Dettelbach to Congress about just taking your pistol brace off and putting it aside, and it's not illegal to own, and it's still not illegal to own one. But if you put it in a different place, there's no constructive intent. But if you go to the ATF's website, they say differently. They say there is constructive intent. You just have to. So storing it in the same place is probably not a safe option. That's probably the best way to put it. You can go ahead and put a longer upper on there, which I guess is fine because then you can buy longer guns. But you still have that shorter barrel length upper running around unless you've traded it in or whatever. Okay. You can Form 1 it, which they have been bombarded with Form 1s. I'm a little disappointed with some of you bending the knee to the crown as such. But it is what it is. Like I say, this is not legal advice. You can do whatever you want. It's your gun. and these are your rights. But there is some hope on the horizon. Okay, if Congress shows up and says, well, because of like I mentioned, those 25 states, they've said enough, right? There's a lot of pushback. Finally, a lot of pushback. Now, we are going into an election year, or election cycle, I should say. So that's probably has a lot to do with it. But I think there's a lot of folks that are just done with this. There was a recent lawsuit that was heard at the Supreme Court, actually involving some citizens of the state of Idaho up at Priest Lake, where they had some property. They wanted to fill in. It was kind of marshy or something. It was not connected to the lake, at least not directly. So they brought a bunch of material in so they could build a cabin. And the EPA stepped in. They got in a lot of trouble via the EPA because they changed some rules. And the Supreme Court said, an agency cannot create law and cannot change the mind to basically entrap citizens. Okay, it came down to deference, Chevron deference. That's a term you should remember. I think we've actually talked about Chevron deference. Because of that, the Supreme Court saying you can no longer use deference. It should go down to, was it lenity? Is that the word? I think it should always fall, like citizens should always have the burden, or not the burden. What am I trying to say? More freedom should always be granted to the citizen in this case. Okay. I can't remember the exact term. So ATF got in a lot of trouble. ATF, or the Congress said, no more. You're done. Which is great, right? So what the hell does this have to do with the ATF? Everything. Because precedent has been set, thanks to the EPA case, that agencies can no longer change the rules in order to entrap citizens or to bind them into something that was not a problem to begin with. Now, I know we talk about the Bruen decision a lot. We talk about the Heller decision a lot. There's the Caetano and others like that. Those are important cases to understand. All those create case law, and all of those fall to the gun owner retaining rights. Okay. Now, when we add that EPA case in there, that should cause a little fear in the hearts of the ATF and the gun ban lobby and even President Biden. Because no matter what he says, he has no control or no ability, as hard as he will try, to take away your Second Amendment right. And you're going to hear a lot, and you probably have, you're going to hear, well, 68% of Americans, they want stricter gun law. Who are they talking to? That's one thing that you have to ask these questions. Who did they survey? Where was the survey taking place? How old is the demographic? Like, in order to understand the numbers, you need to know where they came from. They probably polled 100 people on the UCLA campus or in Jersey or DC to find out the numbers, right? You need to be asking questions. 68% of Americans don't feel that way. It's a lie. You're being lied to. We're being manipulated every day. There's been a lot of rumble about, and I think I talked about this last time again, right? How guns are the leading cause of children in the United States. No, they're not. And it doesn't take long to look up the statistics. You can go to the CDC and type in child mortality, cause of death, and you can even search that database by age. And you're going to see, oh, that's really that's not the case. The difference is, and we talked about this, but I'm going to say it again. Once you add in 15 to 19-year-olds who are no longer, last time I checked, an 18 and 19-year-old is not a child. That's still counted in the statistics, but they're also including gang violence in there, and that's the same statistic they're citing for mass shootings. Is included anyone, any victim, whether dead or shot, 4 or more, including the shooter, in any public space. Any inner city shooting is now considered a mass shooting. Again, look at the numbers, extrapolate, understand. They're creating a boogeyman. Okay? Just do the math yourself. That's all I'm asking you guys to do. Because once you educate yourself, then you cannot be manipulated. And it is not that hard to do. That's what's so frustrating. You watch these. I do enjoy watching these congressional debates, right? But then I pull what hair I have out left, listening to the left just lie and lie and lie. A lot of Republicans do it too. Okay, they're dumb, but it is what it is. Anyway, what do you do about it? What do you do? All right, so we talked about the pistol brace thing, okay? The time is coming short. But you have to make a good conscious decision. And let's take a quick break, and we will be back. Are you one of the millions of gun owners in America who choose to carry a firearm as a life-saving tool? Carrying a firearm is a big decision, and it comes with a lot of weight, including the actual weight of the gun itself. The right holster for the job is just as important as your choice to carry. That's exactly why I went to Hoftac Holsters. I was a customer of Hoftac before Nick was ever part of the show. I trust the quality, I trust the customer service, and I know that my gun will fit without fear of it ever falling out. I carry every day, and that just wouldn't be possible without my Hoftac holster. Right now, on every online order, you can save 10% by just simply using the promo code RangeMinded at checkout at Hoftac.com. Again, right now, you can save 10% at checkout when you use the promo code, 2 words, RangeMinded at Hoftac.com. Check them out, buy something, and use the promo code and save 10%. See, we love you. We want to save you money. All right, welcome back to the Range Minded podcast. I want to take a second. Well, actually, let's do this right now. I probably should have done this in the beginning of the show because it's important. But I get so excited about gun stuff, right? I'm just, it's who I am. At the time of this recording, again, I'm at the end of May 27th. This is Memorial Day weekend, okay? Now, I know some of you might just think it's another day for a barbecue, maybe hanging out with a family, but that's really not what it's about in its entirety. I want to take a minute to say thank you to all the men and women who keep the bad guys up at night. It's an opportunity to remember those individuals who made the ultimate sacrifice, who didn't make it back, who gave their last breath that we could live in a free country. I get so emotional. I get so emotional when I think about where this country is now compared to where it was when I was a kid, compared to where it was when my dad immigrated to the United States, and even compared to what it was at its founding. I think it's really easy to feel like we're going to a dark, dark place, that America isn't the same. And it doesn't feel the same, right? If you're older and you remember playing outside with your friends, it just doesn't feel the same. And I don't know how to get back to that. I don't know if we can get back to that. But what I do know is that there are still brave men and women who stand at the spear point, who stand at the forefront, who stand at the battle line, willing to give all. Now, you may not agree with conflicts across the world. You may not agree with the military-industrial complex. But what we can all agree with, and what we should be agreeing with, is that we are all Americans. We are all Americans. We're not African Americans. We're not Asian Americans. We are Americans. And the true American spirit, sorry, can survive anything. Because we've proven ourselves before. We have seen what love can do. Get all mushy here in a second. We have seen what American ingenuity can create. We have seen what American force can do, fight can do, the will to survive. We have seen it. America was born out of the spirit of grit, out of the spirit of liberty, and out of the spirit of welcoming all. Now, I'm not saying we welcome bad attitudes. I'm not saying that we should encourage illegal immigration, that we should encourage the gross things that take place in schools, and honestly, the gross things that are coming at us from left to right. We don't have to accept that. That's not what being an American is. What is an American spirit is fighting for truth and right. And we can all do that. But that's not what this weekend's about. This weekend is about saying thank you. Do me a favor. If you're going to some big box store to get all the groceries for your barbecue, maybe you got a ginormous list of honeydew things that you need to take care of, and you have to go to a big orange store or a big blue store to get the materials that you need. If you see somebody walking around with a military service hat, you all know who I'm talking about. You see those Vietnam veterans, those Korean War veterans. Sometimes you'll see the OAF and was it Operation Iraqi Freedom, OIF? Yeah. Sometimes you see those men and women with their hats on or stickers on their trucks or cars or whatever. Do me a favor. Tell them thank you. I have lost friends after they've come home. And I don't know if a phone call would have helped. I don't know if a handshake would have helped. But they deserve it. They don't deserve to be treated like garbage. Every day we lose 22 veterans to suicide. Every day. I don't know how accurate that statistic is. It doesn't matter. We need to show them some appreciation. Some of them are dealing with things that are beyond a civilian's understanding. They deserve something more than nothing. If you are a veteran and you're struggling. You're struggling with thoughts, and you think the only way out is to take your life. I know this is heavy. 988. That's the suicide crisis hotline. 988. Don't feel like there's no other way. Boy, that took a crazy turn, didn't it? Holy cow. Sorry. That's what Memorial Day is to remember those men and women. Tell them thank you. Whew, okay. That was not where I planned on going at all. I actually wanted to talk to the millions of new gun owners in the United States. Millions. I think we've talked about some of the statistics before. They figure some 20 million new gun owners just over the last couple of years. A vast majority of those are women and minorities. Fantastic. Honestly, that's why I became a firearms instructor. I understood that the future of the firearms community, the future of the Second Amendment, was held by women, so everyday moms, and kids. And that was why I wanted to become an instructor. I wanted to teach kids and women, because I know that's the future. And we're seeing that now. If you are one of these first-time gun buyers, I want to know if you feel intimidated about the community. Well, actually, first I want to know, what was your drive to get to this point? I think we saw a lot of unrest. We saw riots. We've seen a lot of crazy thing going on in communities. We're seeing a lot of civil unrest, a lot of uncertainty, and I think that's driven a lot of folks to buy firearms for defensive use. Particularly people that live in communities where they know the cops aren't going to be there, or they're going to take forever to get there. You know, there's a lot of way left wing people, and man, they're loud. Can you hear my family upstairs? They are so loud. Maybe you realize that you are the immediate responder in a situation. Maybe you understand that when seconds count, the cops are minutes away. Maybe you live in a rural part of town or out in the country or whatever, where you realize that even if you have a good law enforcement presence, it will take a long time to get there. Maybe that's what was your motivation. I don't know. Maybe you've had some kind of a domestic dispute, and you realize that the only way to stop the crazy person that now hates you, isn't just a piece of paper. I don't know. This kind of makes me wonder, like, why have you made that decision? That's the first couple of questions I have for you. The next is, why did you pick the firearm that you did? Did you go spend some time with some friends that you knew had firearms? Did you go to the range? Did you find a place to rent guns and get a bunch in your hands and feel the difference between calibers and weights and sizes of firearms or actions, whether it was a revolver or a semi-auto? These are questions I have for you. But there's still more questions I have for you. Like, have you spent the time to get some good training? Now, there are many that will argue that, and I might just be in that camp as well, not because I like to teach. But have you gone to a class? Like I say, there are many folks in the gun community that will say that taking a class is probably more important than buying the gun first. And that might be. But there's a lot you need to understand about taking a class, about who you can trust to teach that class, and what you should expect out of a class. Now, I'll be teaching another class in Boise here on the 3rd. Man, that's only I better jump on that. It's only a couple weeks away. On the 3rd of June. Okay, it's another Idaho Enhanced Concealed Carry class. And if you can take, even if you don't plan on carrying, and I know you may not even live in Idaho, but if you can take a concealed weapons class, there should be, in parentheses, right? There should be information being taught there that will hopefully open your eyes to the decision of carrying a gun for defensive use. Because it is a big deal. It is a big step. And I worry that you new gun owners have made this choice to carry a gun without really thinking through everything. Now, maybe you jump on YouTube and sometimes you watch the videos, whatever kind of gun video you like to watch, and you'll see an advertisement for like USCCA, of which I'm a credentialed instructor. I love their curriculum. I think it's very, I think they do a very good job of bringing details out that are important. I don't know other way to say that. They also offer insurance, which I think is a great idea. And I think these are things that maybe some of the new gun owners haven't really thought about. When we first had Nick on the show years ago, when he talked about making the conscious decision to carry a gun, sometimes he says, I don't feel right about carrying. Like I'm not in the mental state of carrying a gun, which I appreciate. I applaud. I think if you're choosing to carry a gun, and this goes for new gun owners as well as seasoned gun owners, gun carriers, you need to be making that conscious decision every day and tell yourself, I may have to use this today. And if I use this, am I willing to accept the consequences of the choices that I may have to make? It's a pretty heavy commitment. Now, I'm not telling you this because I'm trying to discourage you from carrying. Quite the opposite, actually. If you've been paying attention to laws, there are more than half of the country now is constitutional carry, which I think is fantastic. Our permit is the Second Amendment. Now, I also understand that the perspective of some of these new gun owners coming in, and maybe that's your perspective as a new gun owner, might not be politically in line with, shall we say, the majority of gun owners. Maybe your voting preferences are not quite the same. There are a lot of Democrat gun owners. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot. I've learned from myself by putting my foot in my mouth about some of these Democrat voting gun owners. And honestly, I think that's fantastic. But I think before you vote, and this honestly goes for Republicans as well, I think you should probably not vote party line or party affiliation. I think you should probably be looking at the person that you're voting for and make a good conscious decision. Because we're seeing kind of a realignment with some of our elected officials, particularly on the Republican side. Let's not get into politics, though. Okay, sorry, I ramble. I hope, though, if you are one of these new gun owners that have moved from a very progressive state, a very blue state that's very restrictive on your Second Amendment rights, if you've migrated to a very red state recently, learn how to integrate yourself. Is that a safe word? Go to the range. Um, get around people that understand a little bit more about the Second Amendment that maybe you do. Spend some time taking classes. Honestly, I think there's not a lot of better ways to understand your right than taking a class. There are some amazing instructors out there. Like there's some very big boy classes. You can spend a lot of money on some really top tier instructors. There are some really good ones uh, that are capable of teaching to any level of student. And then there are some other ones that, though they're super cool online, maybe they wouldn't be the best choice for new shooters because their stuff's a little too high speed. But the best way to seek those out, if you're looking for some education, just go to the range. Just talk to people. Visit more gun shops. Ask around. Honestly, if you're in Southeast Idaho and you need some private instruction, I'm absolutely here for you. I'm a credentialed instructor. I would love to help you on that journey. I'd love to teach the firearm stuff. I love it. Otherwise, why would I spend time doing a podcast and driving across the state to teach classes? It doesn't make sense if I didn't enjoy it. The next question I have for you new gun owners is what's your next gun? What gun are you gonna go for next? I know for me, when I really decided to go all in on my Second Amendment love, is I knew I was gonna have to buy more guns. I knew it was gonna be an expensive hobby. I guess it's not really a hobby, is it? And I knew for a fact as well, once I got my first AR and once I started shooting said AR, that wouldn't be my last. And it wasn't. I think it's important that though you've started your new journey in the firearms community, that you shouldn't stop. I'm not telling you this because I think we need to bump up our civilian-owned firearms numbers, which we do. But I want you to exercise and enjoy your right to own and carry a gun, any kind of gun. Because once you do that and you understand how the gun works and you understand the community, when there's political opinion about what they think guns, on the media or whatever, whenever there's a problem with the AR-15, that there's enough educated people out there that says, no, that's totally inaccurate. Us that have been in the community a long time, we watch the news or we hear the report on a shooting or whatever, and there's so much misinformation or disinformation. Some of it we believe in malice to purposely paint a picture that's wrong. And it's frustrating to us. We get really frustrated with that. But the more people that get involved in the community, the less that false and fake news, for lack of a better term, has an effect. And I think that's why we're seeing such a surge in constitutional carry. I think that's why we talked about the pistol brace thing in the beginning of the show. I think that's why we see that meeting such opposition right now, is because the millions of new gun owners in the United States. Now, all of us in the gun community have a lot of work to do. We have allowed other people to be our voice, and we haven't held them accountable for misrepresentation. Now, that includes the NRA, that includes our elected officials, that includes some of the idiots that we see at the gun range. That includes misinformation about, in the news about things. If we just got on the news and said, or called the news stations when we see a ridiculous report about something and say, hey, that's wrong. When we hear some of the ridiculous statistics on gun crime, which again only take a short amount of time to jump online and look at and realize that it's reported inaccurately, we need to call these people on the carpet. When we hear ridiculous legislation, whether it be city, state, or on the federal level, about infringing on a right, we need to say something. I think the majority of gun owners, like the generation before me, so it would be, the older generation now, some call them FUDs. I think that generation just had too much confidence in the community, too much confidence in the country, and they just figured that would never happen here. So they kind of got a little less vigilant. And because of that, because of the apathy or whatever you want to call it, I think we're in the mess we are now when it comes to some of the gun laws. But you new gun owners are the hope. You are the future of the Second Amendment. You give me hope. You really do. Because there are millions of new people with a newfound love for the Second Amendment, a newfound love for the sporting side, for the recreational side of firearms use. There's millions of new gun owners that want to be politically active safely, that want to represent the community. And I think that's fantastic. And us seasoned gun owners need to welcome you in. I mentioned a little bit about it's time to have some hard conversations. It really is. I don't know how to answer for every gun crime in the United States. I don't know the answer for why we are seeing an uptick in violence, whether gun related or not. Violence is on the rise. I think there's a lot of despair. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of frustration with any political leader. And that just kind of chops us down. We need to stop looking at the negative stuff. We need to start focusing on the positive stuff. It's time for us to wake up, I guess is a better way to put it. So, new gun owners, welcome to the community. We are excited to have you. Please, new gun owners, seek out competent instructors. Don't just take one class and figure you know it all. Don't do that. That doesn't work. That's inaccurate. Keep learning. Seasoned gun owners. We know that some of these people these new gun owners may not look like us. They may not act like us. They may not talk like us. But they're on our side. Okay, maybe there's some bad apples in the bunch, but that's just the way it is. We have an opportunity to prolong our Second Amendment rights another generation. We should not discount that. Okay? Because if we can preserve our Second Amendment, that means they are willing to preserve the First and the Third and so on. Don't be too proud. New gun owners, don't be scared to ask questions. I know a lot of us gun dudes are we're pretty opinionated, maybe a little overbearing at times. We need to be better. But don't be scared to ask questions. Go to the range. If if you have a question about something, raise your hand. If you're in the shooting range somewhere and there's somebody that can help, just raise your hand. Have a conversation with people. It's okay. You're going to see that the majority of gun owners are normal, everyday people. They're businessmen, businesswomen, they're moms, soccer moms, they're lawyers, they're bikers, they're everything. They're Americans. Owning a gun is completely normal in the United States. And we need to remember that. And we need to live our lives like normal American citizens. And if we see something that isn't right, then we stand up. It's okay. It's okay. We love it when I was working the range or working the gun counter. I absolutely loved helping new gun owners. I love it. To me, it's fun. It's fascinating. It's cool to see people overcome anxiety about firearms, apprehension about shooting a gun. It's fun to me. It's fun to help them grow. Not because I make fun of them. That, you know what I mean. That has nothing to do with it. It's about helping somebody grow. I love it. And I hope a lot more of the seasoned gun people feel that way. It's such an awesome experience. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. It is actually extremely late as I'm recording this. I'm tired, and I've got a massive headache. So I appreciate you guys. Again, if you're a new gun owner, welcome to the fold. It sounds like a cult almost, right? I promise we're not a cult. Some of us are a little off. That's true. But we welcome you with open arms. And hopefully your journey is a positive one. I, for one, am here to help you all along the way. If you have questions for us at Range Minded, you can hunt us down on our social media. So we have Instagram, Range Minded Podcast. We have Twitter, which is becoming quite fun, actually. And let's see what else. Oh, Facebook, Range Minded Podcast. Or you can email us at rangeminded@gmail.com. Eventually, I'll get off my butt and put a website up. There's just so much going on. But it's all good. It's all good. Reach out to us if you have any questions. And I'm serious. If you live in southeastern Idaho and you need some help, I'm down with helping you out with some private instruction. I'm trying to get some classes set up actually over here, where I thought I was going to be able to teach classes. Actually, kind of teetered out on me. I was going to do some classes through this year, but I need to contact the board of the range. Apparently, there is a conflict that needs to be resolved. It's really frustrating, but I'll keep you posted on that. You guys be good, be safe, be good stewards of the Second Amendment, and for hell's sakes, take somebody shooting. See you guys.